am so glad I watched this afternoon and not last night. I would have had nightmares. Hello everybody, welcome back to Taste of Reality. My name is Queenie. For those who don't know me, reviewing Married at First Sight, season 14, episode 14. Before I get into it, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and let's get into it. So, at this point, the US team, y'all might have to throw retreats out the window because as of late, there is at least one wife who becomes unhinged at these retreats, but here we are. Everyone is in good spirits while planning to go on the retreat besides Noi and Steve, who cannot get over this social media conversation.
I literally told you it wasn't about you, and you were still like, no, it's about me.
You told me it was about me.
The fact that Steve has to explain to Noi what possible perceptions your stories have, it is mind-blowing. If you're in a new situation and all of a sudden you're posting things where you're complaining about your current life situation, people are going to assume it has to do with your husband. And you know how we know that? His own family members are hitting him up like, yo, are y'all good? Is everything okay? Girl, you are how old? This is so juvenile. Oh my goodness. On the other hand, though, I'm almost like, okay, Steve, clearly there's a bigger insecurity that you have when it comes to this relationship, because if you're going to take every single thing she posts as personal, a hit dog hollers. A hit dog hollers. Clearly you're offended by something. Clearly the slipper fits. So what is the bigger issue? What is the insecurity that you're feeling where, you want to feel away when something she's posting is, to her credit, vague? The things she be posting are vague, but we know it has to do with him. Like, come on, let's be honest. So on both their ends, I'm like, okay, Noi, at least put it on your close friends or something. Don't put it on your broad story. And then Steve, if there's a bigger issue, this is the time to address it. I will say, though, it did blow my mind how later when Steve was trying to talk about it in front of the rest of the couples, she feels like she was ambushed. You're posting about your relationship, whether it's inadvertently or not. You're posting about things that make people make assumptions about your relationship. And it's going out into the world. Why now at a table of people who you have always shared your business in terms of the experiment, you already are being filmed, we already know this is something y'all talked about on camera, now you feel ambushed? These two probably went from the most hopeful for me to, I don't necessarily want to say least because we still have Lindsay in the equation, but man, they plummeted quick. So when everyone arrives, the sexes part ways, and Lindsay shares how she has to do all of these things to alleviate stress for Mark.
I got all this stuff next week I gotta help him with in order for him to just be able to breathe. I just can't come in as the role of mother and caregiver.
So unless we're missing something, Lindsay created that role for herself. I don't remember seeing Mark ever ask for a mother figure, for a caretaker. So for her to kind of put the stress on her plate in an attempt to alleviate stress from him, but then complain about it at the same time, he didn't ask for you to do that. And she's like, I didn't sign up for he didn't make you sign up to be this, So I'm just like, let the man do what he wants to do. In reality, it's really hard to watch your partner struggle, or maybe they're drowning, when you're able to help them out of a sticky situation. But if this is the way that Mark sees himself as having autonomy in his life, let him have it. He already told you he feels suffocated, he feels smothered, it's just too much, he wants to breathe. Let him govern himself. If things go to crap, they go to crap. But at least he feels vindicated in, you know what, I'm doing it by myself and that's on me. Later on at the dinner table, the couples are sharing about their progress. And this was a stellar night. This was a stellar episode in general for Jasmina and Michael. And she's really praising him for opening up to her.
You can agree or disagree, but I feel like we can connect more because I've been doing that.
Disagree.
What?
I'm joking.
At the beginning of the season, with the exception of Noy and Steve, these two were my top picks, honestly. And it sucks to have watched them get in their own way because the potential is so like there's just so much potential between the two of them, but they get in their own way. And because this process is so expedited, they wasted so much time in the beginning. I feel like they do complement each other a lot when they're in a good place. And I wonder if it's maybe too little too late. And if they're going to base their decision on the entirety of the process, I see them saying no. But if it's on the latter half of the process, I hope they say yes. And I hope they give it a proper try because, man, there's hope. There is hope. I even loved how they were so coordinated this whole weekend, like couple goals. Even though I know we're not supposed to idolize other couples, but like, y'all really could have something good. Get it together. The praise continues with Ola crediting Katina for them having such a smooth marriage.
We're in a partnership.
Yeah, when I'm in a partnership, I appreciate you. Thank you, Katina.
You're welcome.
He better keep the praise going because if he was married to anybody else, they would have been right beside Alyssa calling her lawyers asking for representation, okay? He better count his blessings that he was partnered with Katina. Wow. The next morning, we have Lindsay who is frustrated with Mark because he's not really a morning person and she's trying to get him out of bed. And he's like, yo, just give me a second. Let me chill or whatever, right? And what was meant to be a joke somehow turned into an insult.
You get so hyper. It might be nice.
Okay. That's rude.
It wasn't being rude.
I'm gonna
joking
get
about
her.
I do not blame Mark for not being able to keep up with her emotions. Her emotions are a pendulum. They swing from left to right in the extremes. I feel like there is no middle ground, and it's heightened when alcohol is involved, and I feel like there is a lot of alcohol involved with this specific weekend. So when he's there stunned, like, all I said was you was hyper. Like, I don't understand how this has turned into a thing. I was there with him. I'm sure production was like, really? Is this really happening? And so you do see her talk about her mom used to talk to her in a certain way, and that's why she excommunicated her, and she's not going to hesitate to do it to other people either. As I'm watching this, to me, I feel like everything she's been doing in this process seems like a trauma response. When we start with, her need to be needed by Mark, her need to be the loudest person in the room so that she's heard, the way that the slightest comment that is not flattery turns into insult, it all sounds like a result of her trauma in the past. And I don't know if Married at First Sight has a welfare team. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. If they do not, invest in it, because clearly the people on these last seasons specifically seem to be dealing with a lot of trauma, a lot. They're going through a lot. I'm going to leave it at trauma because I hate diagnosing people. It's not my realm of expertise, so I'm not going to do that. And also, it's unjust to do that off of an edit, but it feels like there's a lot of personality disorders, especially in this season. So hey, welfare team, this is your time to interject. In the conversation with Mark, she did say there's a difference between like banter and then you being rude. However, if I'm comparing him calling you hyper and the things that you've been saying to him this whole weekend, take your own advice, Lindsay. You're being rude. So Olajuwon and Katina have a date in the field with alpacas, or as Olajuwon likes to call them,
Gazebos.
When they sit down, they talk about when they want to have kids, and Katina says in 2 years, but she's currently also in school. So Olajuwon is like, okay, maybe you might have to shift your timeline.
You enjoyed your life these last 5 years. And now you're trying to like, hey, it's time for me to lock in. Because a lot of people do that. I just don't want you to get offensive.
I'm not offensive.
I feel like I'm coming at you because I'm not.
I think he's justified to question how the timeline is going to work, right? And for her, she's kind of feeling away because she comes from a single parent household. She's seen somebody not have to deter their dreams in order to make life work. And so if she has seen it work, of course, she thinks that she can do it as well. Where things go left between the two of them is where he says, well, I've done A, B, C, and D, and I now get to enjoy my life because I put everything aside and I'm established and you're not I'm like, okay. If I'm being honest, I'm speaking from an immigrant perspective. So maybe y'all's perspective might be different, but as an immigrant, a lot of us come to Canada. A lot of us go to these countries, wherever you're going to. I'm in Canada, so I'm speaking for Canada, with the whole American dream mindset, because it's here too. And I've seen my parents do everything right. My mom was a dentist. My father was an engineer back home. They came here and had to start from scratch, did everything correctly, put their children in private school and all these things. Yet the American dream wasn't attainable for them after doing all the things correctly in the way that life says you're supposed to do them. So for Olajuwon to say, you have to do life this way or it's not going to pan out for you, I feel like that was an unfair thing to say. I understand his concern in that, listen, I'm established and I was looking for somebody who had that in common. Understandable. But now do not crap on this woman's idea of where life should go for her. I've seen people, what's his name? These rich people, almost all of them, barely finished school, yet, just a good amount of seed money from their parents or from wherever led them to having these multi-million-dollar businesses, most of them billion-dollar businesses. And there's other people who grind in school, go to their doctorates, all that stuff, work their 9 to 5 till the day they die and can never achieve even a morsel of wealth that those other people achieve. So that was my only issue with this conversation. I was like, be careful. So I'm going to be honest and say that I kind of skipped through the medium date with Mike and Jasmina just because I don't fool with stuff like that. I don't do that. However, getting in touch with their spiritual side really did open Mike up a bit. And even the medium had said, I see love here.
He's going to stand by your side and it's going to take time, but you're going to have a beautiful relationship. You just don't both know that yet.
Mark and Lindsay also got in touch with their spiritual side by taking part in the sound bath, I think it was called. And you know what? I know that we clown the experts for their pickings. But if I'm being honest, this season, I think they actually did a great job. It's really hard to account for human behavior, right? But when I look at Lindsay, I don't think anybody would be able to deal with her the way Mark's been able to deal with her. Same with Ola and Katina. Honestly, same with Chris and Alyssa. Because if Alyssa was even a bit invested in trying to make it work, Chris would have been there, all right, let's do this. Like he was ready to be the long-suffering husband to Alyssa. And so I don't see a lot of them making it past this experiment. However, I do think the experts tried. They tried. You can't account for human behavior. We can't blame them for that. The couples are back together and they're having a field day. The teams are the Undertakers versus the Grave Diggers, the Grave Diggers, and they play the games like Flip Cup. There was some kickball involved. They also played dodgeball, Porcatina, and they play Who's Most Likely To. During this, some of the questions asked were who's most likely to get cosmetic surgery, and that was Noi. Who is the best liar? And they voted for Jasmina. And after the question about who spends the most money on their partner, things went left. And honestly, at this point, you know how people say, oh, so-and-so was in rare form? It's not even rare at this point for Lindsay.
Would you be okay being a one-income family? Because I'm a two-income family kind of bitch.
Who is most likely to lie to their friends about their sex life?
Because I'm telling them it's good. Are you going to keep saying things all day? Am I going to have to come for you next? I don't give a what y'all think.
Shortly after this, Lindsay and Mark do get into an argument off camera that had to do with him using her kerosene, and she felt like that was him overstepping her boundaries. Okay.
Then she grabbed my arm, and she was like talking to me directly, and I'm like, don't grab my arm, why are you talking to me?
Is that something that happens a lot, like those types of fights? That escalate like that?
I'm gonna drive home.
Come on, let's go outside.
He later tries to smooth things over with her in bed, but if you ask me, she was drunk and she was babbling things that didn't make sense. The theme of everything she was saying was basically that Mark doesn't cater to her enough, cater to her needs, that is. His life is a mess and she is done. Later in the morning, we actually see her not feeling well and she's rushed to urgent care. My initial thought was alcohol poisoning. She be drinking too much. Okay, she be drinking too much. She has Virginia beat at this point. And we do see her at the hospital, but they didn't really explain what it was. And I was like, yeah, it's probably alcohol poisoning. Back at the lodge, the couples are sharing about what they learned, where they stand, and Mike and Jasmina had a breakthrough.
I don't have to feel like I have to go to this extent to open up to you. So I really appreciate that.
For the sake of rooting for a couple, I'm going to put my faith in Mike and Jasmina. Are they going to let me down? Most likely. But there's just too much potential there. I think that they're so similar, and that's why they butted heads at the beginning. But now in the latter half, they're embracing those similarities and they're seeing that we're better as a team than as people trying to fight against each other. So I'm really pulling for them if I was to pick somebody. And then the episode ends with Noi really trying to explain to Steve why she is so hell-bent on keeping her studio apartment.
When I came out here, I didn't have a job. I didn't have my family. I never even lived on my own before. My studio meant so much to me.
Essentially, because her last relationship, she was uprooted from where she was and she was in a destitute state almost, and her studio was her refuge. She wants to keep that comfortability and not put herself in a situation where she would find herself where she was at the end of that last relationship. It annoyed the hell out of me that Steve didn't get that. And he was like, well, do you even want to be married to me? Did you not understand what she just said? I understand he has the frustration of a married couple doesn't live separately. I agree. However, in this moment, you're supposed to acknowledge her feelings, affirm them, and leave your concern about all of that for another time. She needed to be comforted in this moment. And I was so annoyed to see him be like, well, do you want to be married or not? Like, this was not the time. This was not the time. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the after show, probably like an hour after this is posted. And I'll see you in the next one.